Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. But as we all know, I do not do this program by myself.
That's right. My name is Mike Piwowarski, coming to you live from the East Coast. That's the coast with the most from the co-host with the most here on The Rundown. 2A views, conservative news, and Craig, it's Monday. How long has it been since we've done this on Monday?
It has been a little bit because we've had holidays and we've had just days.
Yep.
It's been a little bit, you know. For those of us who actually work for a living, you know, sometimes things don't always go as planned.
Well, here we are. There you are. So it's good to be together again.
It most definitely was. How was your weekend, my friend?
Woo! First weekend of Oktoberfest here. Yeah.
Well, we did not celebrate Oktoberfest. Now, okay, you gotta explain something to me. If it's called Oktoberfest, why does it start in September?
Because it celebrates the coming harvest in October. So for 2 weeks leading up to it, to the harvest season, and there was also a big deal a couple hundred years ago. The princess was getting married. So there's that aspect of it also. But it still continues today as the coming of the October harvest season, and it's usually about the last 2 weeks of September, celebrating the harvest in October.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, hey, you know what? It's a good time of year no matter what. And how can you not want to celebrate Oktoberfest?
I don't know, you're worried about liberal transgenderism and that takes up all your time. I don't know.
Yeah, that does seem to occupy a disproportionate amount of Californians' time.
Yeah, yeah. Very true. Very true.
All right, sir. Well, hey, let's go ahead and get into today's news stories, and we'll start. Well, first, let's go ahead and give a quick shout out to our sponsors.
Yeah, let's say hi to our good friends at Hitman Industries. That's hitmanindustries.net. If you got yourself an AR in the past 5 years, odds are you got one of their barrels and don't even know it. Now you can buy from them factory direct for your next AR build or rebarrel your current AR platform. That's hitmanindustries.net. California Republican Assembly fighting a good fight behind enemy lines. Now you could take part in California's future today. Check out the California 6th congressional race while you're at it. If you want the best in tactical concealed holsters on the market, get your butts over to hogholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com, hogholsters.com. Use the discount code The Rundown, all one word, no spaces, all caps. Get a nice little discount there on what you need. And if you're going outdoors, going to the field, going all tactical, you get everything you need but the gun at uscombatgear.com.
That's right, folks. Please take a moment, visit our sponsors. They're the ones who help us to be able to be here with you. So do us a favor, do them a favor, do yourself a favor. Go ahead and give them a visit. All you got to do is follow the links in the description to this program. Check them out. If you like what you see, spend some money with them, and make sure you tell them it was the guys over at The Rundown that sent you. Now, before we get into our news stories today, I just wanted to recognize today as 9/11. I found it to be interesting that President Biden decided not to be a part of any 9/11 remembrances today, but, you know, we won't get into too much of that. He did, however, did not disappoint in embarrassing the United States abroad. Once again, we're not going to necessarily talk about that today, but I just thought it was just interesting to note that on a day that it was so important to us, not only did he not show up to commemorate that day, but he made it a point to embarrass us as a nation.
Well, you know, he's definitely going to do it. You know, that's just his MO, his model, right? So, you know, it's if I recall, it's 2,977 killed on that day, not including the hijackers. I don't know why people put that number in there. So 2,977, and I believe we're well over 4,000 since then that have come down with 9/11 syndrome from the contaminants they got during the rescue efforts.
Exactly. So, anyway, let's go ahead and get into today's story. And the reason why I know in particular this had to be our lead story. So over the weekend, this article hits on Politico, right? And I'm like, I'm reading this article and I'm like, it's obviously about Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. And I'm reading it and I'm like, this piece of feces, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be our lead story on Monday. And so I just boom and I send it. And then Mike notes, yeah, I sent that story to you 20 minutes ago. Because I think he sent it we sent it to each other through Messenger. But it was funny because I hadn't seen it yet. But that is how big a piece of feces this particular story happens to be. It's a story that's actually in Politico. And it says here, this is an interview with Gavin Newsom. It's really not a Politico story as much as it was a part of a story where he was interviewed. He did an interview on MSNBC. So this was part of MSNBC. Was it this week? Anyway, it was an interview that he did with NBC. In any case, he was talking about we would have done everything differently. Newsom reflects on COVID approach. Let me just read a little bit of this to you. Governor Gavin Newsom said criticism of California's tough COVID-19 restrictions was valid and he would have taken an entirely different approach given what he knows now about the pandemic. I think we would have done everything differently, Newsom said in a taped interview that aired on NBC's Meet the Press. I think all of us, in terms of our collective wisdom, we've evolved. We didn't know what we didn't know. We're experts in hindsight. We're all geniuses now. Later in the interview, Newsom responded to criticism of his state's decisions by saying, all of it's legitimate in terms of reflection. Now, Mike, hold on, let me pull you up here. Now, I will tell you what makes me so mad about this. So, if we were talking like the first 2 months, I'll even give you 3 months of COVID. So, March, April, and May of 2020, right? I'll give you those. If you can make that argument at that time. But I distinctly remember we had committed millions of dollars to quote unquote contact tracing, find out who was getting sick, where they were getting sick, in order so that we could make decisions about how to handle it, right? Dude, it was an epic thing. We spent billions of dollars to do this contact tracing. And when people like me, a school board member, was asking, we have to make decisions about whether we're going to be open in the fall or what's going to happen. When we asked for this data, when we said, hey, I know we're spending money on contact tracing. Shouldn't we know if it's safe for kids to be in school? Shouldn't we know? You know what we got from them? Nothing. All they continued to say was, no, we need to stay shut down. No, we need to stay shut down. Also keep in mind, this was a governor who instituted emergency powers like right away, right? And then kept them for almost 3 years. No, not almost. For almost 3 years. He kept them. Meaning, when he says, what he really should have been saying is me. When I say me, I mean him. Because he pretty much took it out of the hands of most policymakers in the state of California. Dude, I just utterly cannot believe how he is, just flat out lying and refusing to accept responsibility for the fact that he screwed up California's COVID response.
Yeah, absolutely. And Craig, you're right. It's 3 years. Remember, he didn't stop the his emergency powers until March of this year. So that was a full 3 years of emergency power by Governor Newsom there. Craig, you can read this story, and if you've got any amount of insight in you look at this and you say, okay, he's going back now and he's saying we should have done things differently. In fact, he even throws a good mention out to Governor DeSantis. So I don't even know what that's about. Whether he's got maybe he's wanting to move here. I don't know. But he says, the things that we did were not necessarily necessary, but it was what we believed at the time. It's what we knew at the time. So we did what we needed to know at the time. Well, if it's true, and at the time you were afraid for life and death of everybody in your state, why were you out there violating the restrictions every day? Why were you out there doing things different? Why didn't you have to wear a mask? Why did you get to go out to eat? Why did you get to do all those things, Governor? So you were lying then, or you're lying now? Because I'm still having a hard time to confuse. It's confusing me, so give me a hard time. I think, Craig, as I read this entire article, this entire interview that he did, is trying to set himself up for, again, whatever he wants to do in future office, whether it's this term, next term, or be on the staff. Because remember, nobody has said that Kamala's coming back, right? So and you know that this administration wants somebody from out west, from California. So I think his name is still in that hat for that vice president position. I think this is, by doing this story, it's the way of forgiving himself for what he did. And now that I'm saying this, you don't have to think of me of doing things so bad before, when I denied my own orders because it was okay.
Right. Well, that's the thing is, once again, it was when he was making the decisions, it was, I am making this decision because he's got the executive order. But then all of a sudden, well, I mean,
yeah.
Here was the thing, and I still remember this. We were fighting over whether or not we were going to reopen schools, and we're like, wait a minute, look, where's the data? Where's the data supporting keeping our schools closed? There was no data supporting it. He flat out ignored it. He flat out ignored every single thing. And then on top of it, he took his kids and he put his kids in a private school where they could actually go to school, where they didn't have to do distance learning.
Right.
Right? I mean, and he didn't wear a mask at a restaurant. He friggin' went to the French Laundry. I had no idea what the French Laundry was, right? Until found out that that's where he was going, and he was at a high-end fundraiser over there wearing no mask while other restaurants were all shut down.
Yeah, football games, don't forget, or basketball games. He didn't have to wear a mask because they had special screenings there that where people didn't breathe on each other.
Right. It's just the degree to which he is a hypocrite. And by the way, let's just be clear. The decisions that he made have affected California. I'll give you an example. We saw about 5 to 6 years of academic gains disappear because of forced distance learning. I mean, we're talking our numbers, our student performance numbers tanked largely as a result of distance learning. It just flat out didn't work.
Yep.
And, you don't get to just be wrong about that when you flat out ignored, like any opposition was silenced and shut down, right? Yeah. All of this stuff, all the stuff that you and I talk about that wound up getting our YouTube channel taken out. Yeah, all of that, nope.
Let's not forget, you lost over 1 million residents also in this time,
Well, because people just realize, I mean, think about all of the businesses that got shut down that are just right now just gone. They're just flat out gone because the governor just said, we're going to shut everything down. And
there's a section here in greater Central Florida that one of the mayors was super liberal and was on par with the things that Newsom did. Now, obviously, had to fight our governor the whole time, but even with the limited things, the shutdowns that this mayor did, you still go to that. I was there this weekend. You go down to that part of town, and half the businesses are gone. They're still gone from the effects of the restrictions during COVID. Whereas the rest of the area, flourishing, continuing to build back, those businesses again. But because of those COVID restrictions, gone, abandoned now.
Oh, and by the way, just so that you all know, because they claim that they were doing this in a way to try and help protect people, but in the end, when you factor in for age, right? Because a big comorbidity on this thing, on COVID, was being old, right? Huge comorbidity. When you factor in the age differences for California and Florida, there literally was the death rates were indistinguishable, meaning we were no more safe in locked down California than they were in opened up Florida.
Yep. What is there's a little quote he has in there. I've forgotten the quote already. The quote that he has about DeSantis, and it was so the way he mentioned it. It was like, I don't think he meant to compliment Governor DeSantis, but he did when he said it.
It says Governor Ron DeSantis now Republican candidate. Hold on, that's not it. There's three different mentions of him here. Oh, it says Newsom noted varied approaches in the various Newsom noted that the varied approaches to the virus based on region and industry, but he also argued there were few states that didn't go on aggressive lockdowns, including Florida's Ron DeSantis. Right, because here's what he did. Let me give you. It
wasn't required.
He followed the science.
Yeah.
He didn't say, I mean, that's what got me. And I will tell you right now, as a school board member here in the state of California, when we asked for the science, we were told people are dying. That's what we got. We got, okay, well, how many school age kids are dying? How many people are contracting it at school? Right? In hindsight, here's what we knew from other states that did have data. What we knew was that those who were getting it weren't getting it at school. It wasn't being transmitted at school because it wasn't largely being transmitted amongst students, especially if you put in place guidelines to protect students. But they didn't care. They just did not care, because a lot of this was about shutting down the schools and shutting it so that it was amazing the amount of concessions that teachers unions and other public employee unions got as a result of COVID. And oh, by the way, there were also a lot of numbers were starting to come out in terms of students and student performance and budget numbers. I really think they were trying and find a way to hide the failure that a lot of what the state of California had been doing in terms of academically. But I won't even get into that. But Mike, it's just, I am incensed. I am so incensed about the flat out, just the gall of Gavin Newsom. And by the way, this is what the other thing that gets me is they're all like, well, we should all just forgive. No. Not when you called me names. Not when you insisted that I was trying to kill children by insisting that the data didn't show that there was a need for them to be in school. Or the data showed they needed to be in school and that they weren't at high risk.
Greg, it's in the past. What difference does it make? Your famous Democrat line.
I will tell you what's not in the past. The fact that there is an amount of learning that our students will never catch back up on. Absolutely, positively, they will never catch back up on. By the time they graduate from high school, they will have less knowledge in their head to prepare them to be able to learn and grow in this world and earn in this world than had we not just flat out shut down our schools. That's number one. And by the way, just so you know, the people who pushed the shutdowns were the teachers' unions. Let us be very clear. Yeah. They are the ones who shut down the closing of our schools in the state of California.
Yep, absolutely right. Absolutely right. Remember, though, he did follow the science, Craig, your governor. He just followed the political science.
There you go. And that is exactly what it was. Then, by the way, because let us not forget, we handed out then ballots to every registered voter, living and dead, cemetery or not, here in the state of California. Interesting that happened during a presidential election. I mean, not that California was ever in doubt of that they were ever going to vote for Donald Trump, but still, I do believe that there are some local races that were probably affected as a result of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially those that had large cemeteries located in them.
Yeah.
But no, dude, I'm sorry, but Gavin Newsom doesn't get to share. No, Gavin Newsom does not get to share the blame because he took all the power. So no, he does not get to share the blame. And folks, for those of you in the rest of the country who are watching this, Gavin Newsolini is a slick talking used car salesman. All right, let me just tell you that right now. He is all that, and he is just a flat out liar. You do not want him to be president of the United States. Trust me. As bad as Biden is, I'd take him over Gavin Newsom. By the way, his name is Newsom. We call him Newsom.
There you go.
Anyway.
That's it. Very good.
Moving right along. And by the way, yeah, it was an epic failure. He didn't admit that it was an epic failure. He just said, well, we could have done things better. I would have done things differently.
Loser.
Biden violates the First Amendment on COVID. Well, this is something else that we knew because we knew that not a lot of data, not a lot of information was going to be coming out. And this was an article that, of all places, CNN says here, appeals court says that Biden admin likely violated the First Amendment. When they say violated the First Amendment, they literally went to news organizations. They went to, in particular, they went to social media. They went to social media companies and had them censor people when it came to COVID-19, right? Had them censor people when it came to COVID-19. So, for example, if you had a YouTube channel and you said things like, I don't know, the vaccine doesn't keep you from getting COVID, or maybe you said that, what's another one? That it came from a lab in China. Well, and your YouTube channel or whatever it was got pulled. Do you know anybody who that happened to, Mike?
Yeah, they said those words, or maybe something to do with the election as well, you know?
Oh, yeah. There you go. Another one. If you talk to anything about election flawed.
Yep. Unbelievable. Yet they deny it. Oh, no, we didn't do that. Then they get with the social media giants and they're like, oh, yeah, well, they paid us to do it. They didn't even just ask us. They paid us to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. They flat out lied and they got paid. They got paid to lie to us. Anyway, here it says here in the appeals court, and I'll read a little bit of the story, read a little bit of the article here to you. It says, a federal appeals court on Friday said the Biden administration likely violated the First Amendment in some of its communications with social media companies, but also narrowed a lower court judge's order on the matter. The U.S. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that certain administration officials, namely the White House, the Surgeon General, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Oh, just some administrative officials likely coerced or significantly encouraged social media platforms to moderate, delete content in violation of the First Amendment in its efforts to combat COVID-19 disinformation. So if you said something like hydroxychloroquine or anything, if you came up with anything other than anything that might actually be a way to treat COVID-19 as opposed to, the cure, well then, or as opposed to taking the vaccine, well then your thing got pulled down. In some cases you lost your channel. I don't know. Do we know someone who lost their YouTube channel as a result of this stuff?
I can't think of anybody at all, Craig, that might have lost their YouTube channel. Maybe it was these guys right here.
Exactly. Lost the channel. Channel just disappeared because we got too many strikes because we happened to mention. By the way, the one that really was just the straw that broke, the one that really in the end did it, that really caused us to lose our channel. Here's what happened. It was a report actually by Sanjay Gupta on CNN, right? So it was their story. And all the story said was this. This was the key to it. It said that if you got the vaccine, chances are your immunity was only going to be for like 2 months, maybe 3.
Yeah.
But if you actually got immunity from getting COVID, it was over at least 6 months. And that was from CNN. Yep. We literally mentioned the report, and all we talked about was the report from CNN, and that's what caused us to lose our channel altogether.
Yep.
And now we
Down.
know that was a violation. And by the way, this didn't just happen. They didn't just over at YouTube decide out of the the blue to say, well, gee, maybe we should censor or moderate or censor this stuff. No, they did so at the behest of the White House. And now, for the life of me, I mean, I have done everything that I can to try and get the YouTube channel back, and I can't. I can't get a hold of anybody to get it back.
Yeah.
The only issue that I have now is that the only thing left I can do is sue. So Mike, I don't have access to like posting stuff to YouTube.
Exactly right. Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, but this is the world we live in now, where you have people, because the problem is, you have to understand, you have people who are going like leapfrogging from the Democrat administration to go and work for some of these tech companies. And so they're pushing these policies right and left. And it is literally, when corporate America decides that they are going to do the censoring at the behest of government, it then becomes a violation of the First Amendment. And that's what this court ruling is saying. Is it's one thing if a company decides, you know what, we're going to kind of control what's on our platform. It's another thing when you do so at the direction of or coordination with the government. Now it becomes censorship.
Yes, that's absolutely what it is. And normally you'd have, the fourth estate out there, right? To prevent that from happening. And folks, the fourth estate, it's the terminologies from, you've got your three branches of the federal government, right? The executive, legislative, and judicial. Well, the media, the press, the fourth estate would be the one to keep them all in check. Except, go figure, right? You got the executive branch controlling the fourth estate now, as well as Congress controlling it as well, controlling what the media says. It goes back to the adage, right? Control the media, control the message, control the masses, and that's what they've done. They've hijacked the fourth estate here.
Well, and the interesting thing is that all it took was some Freedom of Information Act requests for it all to be revealed. Well, let me clarify. Part of it took Elon Musk buying Twitter and exposing a lot of this stuff. Once it was exposed by Elon Musk, well, then all of a sudden the Freedom of Information Act went out, and boom, you started finding that it was happening all over the place. Twitter was not the only ones doing it. It was Twitter, YouTube, YouTube, which is Google, Facebook. They're actually suppressing searches, all of that. They're doing all of that stuff, all in the name of trying to restrict speech. And just so you know, that also affected I believe that the 2020 election was so close. I believe it actually wound up affecting that presidential election. That's how bad the censorship that they have engaged in was.
Yes, that was what actually the definition of collusion.
Yes, that was the actual definition of collusion. And anyway, it is beyond me, folks. I am just so frustrated and so angry about all of this. But it's the reason why, and I'll never forget, there's the title of a book. It was written by, why can't I remember his name? He's a conservative commentator, but he wrote a book called "If It's Not Close, They Can't Cheat." And that's the thing, folks. That's why it's important. When we win elections, it's not just important to win the elections. We need to run up the score. We need to run up the score. Period. All right. Moving right along. Biden's remain in Texas policy. Oh, you'll love this one. So, well, hold on. Let me just bring it up here. So basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to say that you can't have a remain in Mexico policy. But what they're finding is that as people are coming into the United States, millions who are crossing into the United States illegally through our southern border, well, some of them are going to other places. Some of them on their own, some of them because, well, the governors of those states have decided that, look, if we're going to just allow people to enter our country illegally, well, then the rest of the nation should feel the pain. So we're going to fly them, we're going to bus them to sanctuary cities, to places that say, we welcome you as immigrants. And now you've got the state of New York who's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You're the city of New York. You're like, whoa. You got Chicago, like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We can't handle all this. We got people in the San Francisco Bay Area and Southern California. They're losing their minds because all of these people who were coming in and were in Texas, well, now they're not staying in Texas. So now you've got governor. So now, by the way, you have President Biden now they're trying to put in place a policy that will say, well, you're going to have to stay in the state in which you entered the United States. In this case, it would be, in most cases, it would be Texas. And it says here, after hearing about President Joe Biden's plan to possibly keep more illegal immigrants in Texas for longer periods, Governor Greg Abbott thinks the administration is wrong. Governor Abbott mentioned he may start busing migrants to the capital again, as he did in the past. Last week, it was reported on Fox News that Biden administration may keep illegal immigrants in Texas border cities longer to find out their legal status. This caused Governor Abbott to respond as he tried to keep illegal immigrants out of Texas. On X, which was formerly Twitter, Governor Abbott wrote on Thursday, September 7th, Biden considers forcing migrant families to remain in Texas. This scam was tried years ago and it was shot down by a judge. We will send Biden the same swift justice, and we will add even more buses of migrants to Washington, D.C. Because, I mean, Mike, if they believe in, open borders, then why shouldn't they, especially, by the way, since they have the policies in place that will provide them with food and housing and phones and jobs and all of this stuff, shouldn't they go to places that have policies that will protect them and keep them safe?
Yeah, Craig, but we've got an election cycle ramping up, right? We're 13 months away from a national election, 13, 14 months away. And so it's time to punish Texas. It's time to put and keep all of the immigrants in Texas. It's time to make the governor look bad in Texas. It's time to make the senators and the congressmen in Texas look bad. Yes, we know that the law is illegal, but guess what? This administration will do this, put it in place, and then slow walk all of the appeals and all the lawsuits to try and get it to overturn and reverse, because they know it's illegal, right? But they continue to do it. They continue to file unconstitutional laws and regulations. So this is their way of punishing Texas as the election cycle approaches.
Right, because in the end, they don't want to deal with the consequences of their policies. And that's really what it comes down to. Folks, look, there's such a thing as it sounds good on paper. Historically, I believe that liberals tend to, when they consider policies, they always think of how they think it should be and not how it actually is. In other words, they don't look at the actual consequences of the decisions or the policies that they pass, right? They think about how it should be, and they focus on the intent, and they don't focus on the actual outcome. And that's why you have policy after policy that has just utterly and epically failed. You can't have a sanctuary policy, and then when people actually take you up on sanctuary, be surprised when it doesn't work.
Yeah, good idea fairies. That's what we call them. Good
there you
idea
go.
fairies.
Good ideas, exactly. They are the good idea fairies, and they're all out of fairy dust.
Yep.
Or at the very least, the fairy dust is a failing.
Yeah, correct. Well, we know there's plenty of fairy dust in California. They just use it differently.
Right. Exactly. But that, by the way, is that's why I called it. I called it their Remain in Texas policy. So now, instead of Remain in Mexico policy, he now wants to call it the Remain in Texas policy. Wait, I'm not saying he wants to call it. I'm saying he wants to institute a Remain in Texas policy.
That's it.
All right. And then finally, Invasion of America. That's right. One of the things we are finding is as people are leaving places like California, they're going various other places. As they're finding out that liberal policies don't work, although for some reason they seem to refuse to accept the fact that it's the liberal policies that aren't working, they're planning on moving and going other places. Well, where are they going? According to Yahoo Finance, the pandemic population boom in rural hotspots is sparking resentment in those hotspots. Gee, I wonder why. Rural America is booming, but the population growth that's boosting local economies is also putting a strain on everything from schools to housing and roads. The influx, which started during the pandemic, has continued even as COVID restrictions have lifted. The latest government data released just last month points to a second year of increases in 2022 after years of declines. The trend is sparking resentment as house prices in the top 10 rural counties that have seen the biggest population increases surging more than 40% over the past 3 years. Schools are overloaded, and the shift is even impacting farmland prices. Now, Mike, I would push to say that this is only where it begins, right? Because the first thing that happens is they're going to be moved in. A lot of the housing, a lot of the subdivisions, until housing home building ramps up, you're going to start to see a shortage of homes. You're going to start to see home prices going up. But you're also going to start to see some of these people who moved, they brought their liberal thinking with them. And they're going to want to start to implement these liberal policies. I mean, we've already seen it in Arizona. I mean, Arizona really, quite frankly, should have 2 Republican senators and a Republican governor, but they don't. They don't because so many Southern Californians have moved there. We're going to start to see that very same thing start to happen in a lot of our more red states or rural states.
Yeah, you're right. And there's really little way to combat it other than continue to speak about it and tell everybody, don't California my Arizona, right? Or don't New Jersey my Florida, however you want to put it out there. The only things to do are, Craig, you can continue to see the growth in other red states. So those red states that are small or medium red states need to become bigger and more powerful red states to overcome, the purple states that are occurring now that everybody blue is moving and taking their ridiculous failed policies that they left their states for with them to the new red states.
Right. The one I saw, the sign I saw the best kind of communicates that. It was other thing. It says, if you're from California, remember, you are a refugee, not a missionary.
There you go. Very good.
Meaning
Very good.
You had to flee California because you couldn't afford to live there anymore. Right. So Don't come here and try and treat us like, try and treat our state like you're from here. Trust me, your failed policies didn't work where you were, and so they're not going to work here. So stop trying to implement them.
Yeah, it's common sense, right? You would think that nobody left and jumped over the Berlin Wall to bring communism to the east, or to the west. So
no, they did not. Excellent point, my friend. Excellent point. And that, by the way, will bring us to our parting shots, brought to you by Hog Holsters. Get your Hog Holster at hogholster.com. Make sure you use discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces. Get your Hog Holster today. Oh, here we go. This was one, and since we're talking COVID and pandemic, and we're talking about shots, I thought you would enjoy this one, Michael. At the top here, 2021, take the shot or we'll restrict your travel, close your businesses, close your church, destroy your life, get you fired. And now in 2023, nobody forced you to take a shot.
Yeah, the irony of that is he probably doesn't remember saying that he told you to take the shot, that they had all those restrictions. His brain's probably clear of it. Well, we didn't tell him to take the shot. Come on, man. Come on, man. You lying dog-faced pony soldier. That's it.
Oh, and then we've got this one. I love this. It's got Donald Trump pointing down saying, I did not tell patriots to enter the Capitol. Ray Epps, the FBI, and the Capitol Police did that. He's kind of got him there.
Yep. Yep. I wasn't holding the doors open.
Okay. Oh, and by the way, just so you know, Governor Abbott there of Texas has bused over 35,000 immigrants to self-declared sanctuary cities for their own protection. Over 11,300 to D.C. What is that? Over 13,300 to New York City. 6,700 to Chicago, 2,600 to Philadelphia, 1,000 to Denver, and 480 to LA. Our busing mission provides critical relief for overwhelmed Texas border towns, because we're the ones taking the brunt of all that. By the way, one thing that I want to point out, and this is we have our good friend Colonel Allen West. I think for those of you who are now living in a more free Texas with Governor Abbott, you have Colonel Allen West to thank for that. He was the one who stepped up and ran against him in a Republican primary. He's the one who stepped up and I don't know if he had to drag him or just remind him of what being a Republican is. But Governor Abbott, I will say, I have to give you some credit, Governor Abbott. You have responded appropriately. And when it comes to standing up for conservative values there in the state of Texas. But I want to make sure we would be remiss if we did not thank Colonel Allen West for kicking you in the butt to get you to do so.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
All righty. And on that note, we're going to go ahead and call it a day. But before we do, we've got one more quick shout out to our sponsors.
That's it. Hitman Industries, hitmanindustries.net. You can get rifle and pistol caliber barrels at any length you desire for your next rifle or pistol build. Check them out at hitmanindustries.net. California Republican Assembly, fighting the good fight behind enemy lines. Now you can take part in California's future today. Make sure you check out the California 6th Republican congressional race there as well. And then, of course, if you're going outdoors, doing some tactical stuff, going to the field, going hunting, going fishing, you can get everything you need except for the gun at uscombatgear.com.
Once again, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. I tell you what, if you want to thank us for doing the show, visit our sponsors. Go visit our sponsors, spend some money with them, and make sure you tell them it was the guys over at the Rundown that sent you. And on that note, we're going to call it a day. We appreciate you tuning in. We will be back tomorrow on Taco Tuesday. Sounds delicious already. We'll talk to you then.